I've seen enough plays featuring kids to confirm this is quite accurate. Given the animals are often stand-ins for humans, they're very effective stand-ins. One of the common types of continuity goose is a prop moving to the correct place only when needed. This ketchup bottle was nowhere to be seen earlier. It would seem the helmet behind the leaf has taken its cue from the ketchup bottle. The ketchup stain vanishes here. This film has a lot of continuity goofs like these, further evidence to a major overhaul late in production.
I'm gonna be an actuary.
It's pretty neat the way they keep cutting to the musician kid while we hear the crowd's reactions. 2 comic reactions for the price of 1. Where did the little tiger go? And while we're on stage discrepancies, the fake water puddle takes his cue and vanishes later.
Thank you and good night!
Apparently it takes half a day to exit a makeshift theatre.
Your dad, me, your 275 brothers and sisters.
Think about what that means, folks, but don't think too hard. And that's just the first unsubtle hint.
It's great to have dreams.
Yeah, just as long as you don't believe in them too much.
The opening sequence has the follow your dreams material so firmly in front, it can't come across as much more than somewhat tedious boilerplate. The work the filmmakers put into the fur delivers. It's so tangible that it's often a pleasure just to gaze at it. Thankfully, we get plenty of chances to do so.
Zootopia has 12 unique ecosystems within its city limits. Tundra Town, Sahara Square, Rainforest District, to name a few.
That we don't see or even hear of some of Zootopia's biospheres is a great touch of world building, implying a bigger world beyond the canvas. The film has mixed success using tropes common to the genres it pulls from. Thankfully, the brief angry coach character lands on the right side.
My Mammal Inclusion Initiative.
Everyone in the film is a mammal, and the film highlights this, yet it's the Mammal Inclusion Initiative. A little more effort please, filmmakers.
And foxes are the worst.
It's in their biology.
The film is desperate to have messages and themes, except its strengths lie elsewhere, and its execution of those messages fluctuates wildly.
I love you guys.
Doesn't matter though, it's boilerplate. Aww. The problem isn't how the sign is updating. Technology's advanced enough in this world for that. No, the problem is what it's implying. The adult hints present throughout, many rather unsubtle, don't do the film any favours. It makes no sense for Judy to be using an old iPod. She has a smartphone. If the filmmakers are going to insert modern trends, make them accurate. If you can filter out the crushingly mediocre pop song, this sequence is a blissful delight, just taking in the sights. Excluding the city centre, the imagination on display in Zootopia as a place is the best kind of playground. The demented logic to the better gags is great. The icebergs as a moving walkway is as good an example as any. When the film strikes a balance between the animals being stand-ins for humans and being recognisable animals, it's equally lovely.
You probably didn't know, but a bunny can call another bunny cute, but when other animals do it, it's a little...
The problem isn't what she's saying, even if it is a mild groaner. The problem is how it's foregrounded and briefly halts the exposition. The donut lodged under his chin is another case of a prop appearing only when needed, to make the gag a surprise. Point taken, but it's a goof regardless. This clock must have spun a wire. It jumps forward 2 minutes in the space of about 15 seconds.
All predators.
The film calls to attention the predators being such too much for us to not wonder what they actually do eat. And when an animated animal film has you actively thinking about that, its world building clearly isn't solid.
Our first bunny, Officer Hops. Parking duty. Dismissed.
Parking duty?
I'm no expert on American police trends, but new recruits would get stuck on parking duty regardless of species. A little clarity goes a long way, folks. Look at that, folks. Whether it's just a joke or a longer moment, the gags of them acting like proper animals are among the best. The filmmakers deserve credit for making her much less visually credible as a police officer just by adding the vest. Judy's ticket machine must be going haywire, as the time goes back 1 minute in the time it takes to print 72 tickets. Given most of the film is in the city centre, it's a little disappointing how much the centre looks like any big American city, just with animal gags here and there. It's serviceable, but lacks the visual imagination it should have had. That we already know they conned her means we can focus on and enjoy the process by which they make money. It should be said, though, that not all the DreamWorks-like background puns on names and iconography land.
39, 40.
Nick speaks coherently while sucking food. Not a skill foxes have, I'm sure.
You kiss me tomorrow, I'll bite your face off.
As expected as it may be, hearing that deep voice come after all those mute moments is worth it. Also, Nick's popsicle goes from mostly intact to mostly eaten.
I'm gonna move to Zootopia, where predators and prey live in harmony, only to find, whoopsie, we don't all get along.
When the film draws attention to the musty stock tropes for the plot, and not for comic mileage, the results are mixed. The site, workers and warning sign weren't there earlier. They could have staged it so that they were there, but were subtle so as not to spoil the gag. Given Judy seems to be stuck, by all appearances, she has an uncanny ability to rotate in that cement. This alarm clock has a mind of its own. It was on the ledge previously, now it's on the floor. Judy's wearing a pink shirt here. Assuming it fit for an earlier version of this scene, it's more evidence of a slightly rushed production. Judy has nowhere she could have kept this food. There's no fridge or cupboard anywhere in the apartment, and she didn't come in with it either. Given we can see the table edge here, the smartphone's absence adds yet another one to the list. Guess what? Judy's notepad is there, and then it isn't, and then it is again! Taking this at face value, Judy's parents only have one phone between them, and that's not true, as their wealth has been shown to be better than that. I can't be the only one unnerved by the animals using smartphones. This timestamps the film to its year of release and shortens its lifespan. Were the phones more fantasy-like and specific to their world, it'd be better. Weaselton is running at full speed here, yet 10 seconds later, he's barely any further away. Animation physics are of course exaggerated compared to real life, yet that bag lands way off from its original trajectory and angle. This sequence raises an interesting point. Who polices the road in the city? We never see any police officer of the right size to work there. This inside shot shows a door right next to a window. Needless to say, that's inconsistent with the architecture of the houses on the outside. The filmmakers put the adequate city centre production design to inspire use here, playing around with oversized characters in a city when they're tiny elsewhere. It's also a great comic action scene. The donut drops some sprinkles here, yet they've taken the fake water's cue moments later and scarpered. Judy's alarm clock seems to have an admirer in Weaselton's bag. How else to explain it rotating before Weaselton picks it up? The static police officers in the background move around between shots. It'd be a headache to explain them all, so the shots can speak for themselves.
Life isn't some cartoon musical where you sing a little song and your insipid dreams magically come true. So let it go.
Oh dear. I cannot believe they let that guy get through. Forget dead on arrival, it was dead before it was conceived.
His name is Emmett Otterton.
Emmett Otterton. If that's the filmmaker's way of directing people towards the fantastic 1977 Christmas special Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas by Jim Henson of Muppet fame, then bravo. Quite a noble intention. The film is great when it's metaphorically talking about gender. Consider how Judy and Bellwether are small female prey in areas dominated by large male predators. Amazingly, it's the one theme the film doesn't openly discuss. Either way, it's remarkably effective and intelligent, even if it's not utilised fully.
Us little guys really need to stick together, right?
The filmmakers don't realise just how transparent they're making the big reveal, and that's not damage you want done to your twist, folks.
And you're not in the computer system yet, so resources, none.
Gee, that's a happy coincidence to drive the plot. And no, it's not plausible that she's not in there on account of being there just a day. I'm pretty sure soda balls do not come equipped with a zoom in function. This lobby is a high for objects moving around between shots. It's like a migraine of goofs. There's an inspired gag I really dig. Character specific and everything.
I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying.
It's moments like these that convince me Disney took on a few too many DreamWorks staff after the layoff at that studio a year before this film's release. Judy flips the page here, yet it's clearly the first page moments later. Also, the form has two separate fields for the number of exemptions claimed. I'm familiar with these types of forms, folks. That's not how they work.
It's called a hustle, sweetheart.
A beautiful cap to a beautiful hustle, folks. There the filmmakers go, drawing attention to the only non-mammals in the whole picture, and not in a satisfactory way either.
We're a naturalist club.
He refers to them as naturalists, but the correct word is naturists. That's definitely not a character error written as such.
They're all sloths?
I like a gag getting stretched out so long it goes from funny to tedious and then back to funny, but it has to be funny to begin with, and this isn't. I'll concede it's well done. Having him sound like an ordinary worker and letting the animation do the work, there's always something worth supporting. This place seems to be in two minds about its name. It has vehicles in some places, yet just vehicle in others. There were two queues when they came in. In the time they run a number, the slots got through everyone else. Contradictions and a half, folks. As the pen lands, Nick's moved from in front of Judy to beside her. This is where the writing is most effective. The film does an effective job at understanding we're more interested in the character interactions, but also that the mystery must propel those same interactions and development. We only see polar bear fur, yet we later find out a leopard was driving Otterton in the limo. Those two must have mastered the art of not shedding one's fur. This is also where the film is a nifty neo-noir, mostly to its benefit. It tours the dark corners of Zootopia without disrupting the established tone.
I may have sold him a very expensive wool rug that was made from the fur of a skunk.
This society wouldn't allow eating of other animals, let alone skinning them. There is amusement to be found in this Godfather riff, but it doesn't cover off how overdone these riffs are. Nick's reaction, folks. Brilliant.
We may be evolved, but deep down, we are still animals.
It's a good thing the mystery is relatively straightforward. It's still solid enough to be sturdy, so we can enjoy Judy and Nick, who are energetically fun to be around. The film is definitely successful on the character level. The neo-noir angle really reaches its apex through the next few sequences. There are dozens of things they could have showed Chloe Hauser doing, and they picked that. Whether you find it funny or not, it's another awkward timestamp. The film is pretty good at making its bag of cop movie cliches not come to the forefront, but when a cop showcases impossible physical strength... Judy's walkie-talkie has magical properties, because it fell earlier, and yet she has it back here. And no, they definitely did not stop to recover it.
No.
However much we may expect it, seeing the con man warm up to the green cop could still work when it's done well. And yes, it's done well here, folks.
10 left.
Nick only has 8 fingers, thereby calling attention to the logic of using our number system when most animals have 4 fingers per hand. The reason we go to 2 digits on the number 10 is because we have that many fingers. This logic gap is a given in animation, of course, but when it's thrust at us... You can just tell this shot was one of the key concept arts used to pitch the film. Thankfully, it doesn't lose anything in being converted to CG. Now they're just strengthening the Disney Robin Hood connection and reminding us of one of the weaker Disney animation films in a pivotal scene. It's good how they subtly indicate that, though that was the key point for Nick sticking to the stereotype. It wasn't the only one, just the most important.
If the world's only gonna see a fox as shifty and untrustworthy, there's no point in trying to be anything else.
The whole message of playing against social prejudice does have weight, but it's weakened a bit by being so ham-fisted. It should be said that it's good the film doesn't shy away from the whole furries thing, and for the most part, it doesn't detract for the rest of us. Not to downgrade fur elsewhere, but Bellwether's fur has got to be the highlight.
I called him lion fart once. He did not care for that. Let me tell you, it was not a good day for me.
Brilliantly delivered dialogue and great gestures combined for a beautiful moment. Bellwether is much more effective before the reveal.
You think when she goes to sleep she counts herself?
Ha! Brilliant.
You know, I think you'd actually make a pretty good cop.
Oh, how dare you.
After a while, it's just a pleasure to enjoy the mystery being unraveled around the playful banter of Judy and Nick. It does cause problems when it comes to the themes, but seeing the animals act in biologically determined ways continues to provide many of the better gags. Not being in the computer system is plot relevant, but there's no reason or payoff why Judy shouldn't have a proper flashlight. It's not on the level of Finding Nemo, but there's no way they get through the pipe safely, even if they fit. I'm pretty sure we all individually concluded that they would not survive that fall safely. The filmmakers could have made the drop smaller. The cuts during the fall are rather unsmooth. It was probably toned down at the last minute, but it's not done well. Bogo would definitely not have the app, way out of character. Bogo must be on crack caffeine. It's nearly morning and there's no point at which he could have slept.
I'm so nervous.
It strikes me as odd that Bogo wouldn't have given Judy some advice on the press conference, given how important it is and all.
It would be nice to have a partner.
Aww, the relationship is genuinely sincere and moving, folks.
Are they all different species? Yes. Yes, they are.
Except they're not. 2 of the missing mammals were polar bears. It's not Pixar level, but the way the colours get more muted and toned down throughout this talk is worth commending. Wait, so the form asks for animal type, but not gender? That'd be like a human form asking for ethnic group, but not gender. Nick checked yes for whether he'd been charged for a crime and then changed it to no. Lovely little touch. In case you were wondering, having a celebrity activist make an appeal towards societal peace was not a good idea on the filmmaker's part.
They thought it would be better if a predator wasn't the first face that you see when you walk into the ZPD.
The problem with all this is that it doesn't map to our world at all. The film tries to have predators be both the hands of power and an oppressed minority, but it's impossible to balance the two simultaneously.
The world has always been broken. That's why we need good cops like you.
I do really dig that little moment there, showing Bogo's outlook on all this. It's actually really heartwarming to see that Gideon Grey has matured and become a much better animal.
Hey, Judy, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for the way I behaved in my youth.
I also really like how well they communicate. He means what he's saying, but has trouble stringing the words together.
The flowers are making the predators go savage.
If a toxic plant is the cause, it's quite a stretch to say no one's connected the symptoms of the animals going savage to it. The film echoes Wreck-It Ralph too much here. A character gives up when a situation seems unsolvable and their efforts did harm, and then discovers evidence of conspiracy that changes everything, reuniting with the one they broke apart from. Considering the films share a director, writer, and largely the same staff, it's rather unnerving how clear the coat of paint is.
I know you'll never forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me either.
It should be said that the writing is aided enormously by the two leads, who fit their characters really well and were clearly classed for their talents.
I really am just a dumb bunny.
Don't worry, Carrots. I'll let you race it. In 48 hours.
Aww. Expected material, yes, but moving all the same. It's in this shift from cop mystery to conspiracy thriller that the film's change of direction 16 months before release becomes evident. They let Weaselton out after he was stealing. It can't have been more than a few weeks. No wonder crime's a problem if the law is that lenient. Oh dear, again. If this isn't as bad as the Frozen gag, it's still pretty bad. I expect this from the subpar competition, but not Disney animation. I'm not going to stoop to saying Breaking Bad or something of that ilk, but it's so transparent here, I wouldn't judge anyone else for doing it. The film has carefully planted Doug here and there throughout, enough for us to notice his zombie eyes and figure out he's involved. It doesn't nearly draw our attention from the obvious villain reveal even before it happens, but it counts for something. Doug's bored as all the mammals from when Judy found them, but no more. Are we to believe he's hit no one else in that time?
Alright, Walter and Jesse are back.
How can we make the Breaking Bad homage, which we don't realise is old hat by now, even more obvious? I know, let's reference some character names.
It would take a miracle to get this rust bucket going.
Or, you know, convenient screenwriting, whichever comes first. I like how Doug doesn't chase them, but just sits there with his latte. Funny touch for the otherwise one-note lackey. We're used to chase sequences in the final act of animated films thanks to Pixar, but we deserve better than adequate from Disney. Again, implausible strength is implausible. If Judy is that strong, her muscles will be more evident. We've all spotted this, I'm sure, but there's no way they would hang on successfully and survive this. The film characters all around look evil, they all have animal-like eyes, so it can't help but actually come off as marginally bigoted in that area. If the lackeys were a mix of species, it'd be better, but they're all sheep. Oh boy folks, it's not just that straightforward obvious villains are usually better, this is the 4th consecutive Disney film with a secret reveal, and only Wreck-It Ralph did it well. This makes Bellwether less enjoyable to watch, not more so. She was far preferable being marginally eccentric. Having tired of connecting Robin Hood, they now chicken in reference to a Disney masterpiece instead. Also, the writing cliches really come to the forefront during this sequence. It could have done with some major polishing. The film does an even more mixed job at having its arguments against social prejudice and biological determinism be one and the same. The film rushes to wrap its story up here at the end, just tossing out that they made up an anecdote. It's very difficult for a children's film to portray its world as being complex and not black and white, but still have an upbeat, happy ending. The film does well enough in that spectrum, thankfully. I dig that gag there. A literal wolf in sheep's clothing, folks. It's not worth the draggy scene from earlier, but seeing flashes of Speeder is a nice payoff. The film ends with a dance party. Just when even DreamWorks had given up on this trope, Disney raises it from the grave. That said, it's good the film had properly finished already, so this is just a lead-in to the credits. And it is enjoyable as an explosion of colour and lighting. Seeing Disney animators play around with their craft gets me, folks. There's a great subtle payoff to the metaphorical point on gender, showing there's other small female prey mammals on the force now, as a sign of progression. It's my favourite thematic point in the whole film. Normally, I don't like this way of crediting the cast, but they've been so good throughout that it's justified. The whole dance party goes on for almost 4 minutes though, which is way too long no matter what way you look at it. Even after the dance party, there's still 8 minutes of credits to go. It could easily be shortened by 2 minutes without removing anything. Whatever the film does wrong in theme and some jokes, it gets a whole lot more right in character, mystery and being playful. Judy is a fantastic lead and great role model. For that, I'm grateful. -42. It's a bit overrated, but it's easy to see why many folks fell in love with it.